sound like you're having a good time. There is a specific section of the section 9 that makes reference to going, and you can already discuss whether that's something that should be in camera. Just never use it. They decided not to come in?
Decided it was necessary.
That'd be more than 4 people.
Started up some business.
Trudy, if you could remind me whether or not I recognize the motion as amended.
You stated it, and we haven't even seconded it, but there's no vote.
Okay, so any further discussion on the agenda as amended? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Minutes, June the 20th, special council meeting. Councilor Mary saying, Councilor Colclough, you have a long night, any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. June 27th, 2016, regular council. Councilor Colclough, thank you. Councilor Swain, thank you. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Tonight's minutes, June the 11th, 2016, Committee of the Whole meeting minutes. Moved by Councilor Colclough as presented, seconded by Councilor Swain. Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Item correspondence from Jackie Hill from the RDN regarding Southern Community Search and Rescue Contribution Service Amendment Bylaw. And basically this is an RDN function, so they're looking for our consent to amend the bylaw, which would allow them to collect a little bit more money related to the Southern Community, which is District 68 Search and Rescue. Yep.
Is this one of those ones where they do it like this every 5 years or something?
Basically what it is when it comes to the bylaws have these ceilings, right? And if they get that ceiling, they've got to amend it.
They bump it up so that it covers it.
Yeah, it's not an annual thing.
Yeah.
No. And this one here, I believe, off the top of my head, was amendment from 30,000 to 36,500. That's what it was. Moved by Councilor Colclough, seconded by Councilor Hain. Any discussion?
So, how much did you say the numbers were?
I was going by memory.
Okay. On page 7, it mentions 41.3 to 57.7, or sorry,
Oh, sorry,
53.7.
53. Sorry, it's another one I'm thinking of.
But that's not all ours.
No, that's spread out through District 68.
Yeah.
And that also, getting back to my earlier question, doesn't mean that the budget this year, next year is 53. It's just over time it can go up to 53.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
So they don't have to keep revisiting.
Yeah.
So it puts a cap, but it's not necessarily used. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Verbal updates. Councilor Swain.
Nothing from the Senate.
Councilor Hain.
Just a question through the staff that I didn't get. I just had residents bring to my attention. Some issues with the washroom at Huddlestone Park and those porta potties. They told me there's been some damage down there.
Through the chair, basically what happened was with the button on the washroom with it, had malfunctioned, so we had to order new ones. So we got a couple of porta potties brought in, and someone in their infinite wisdom decided it would be fun to tip them over during a Friday night. So that happened. Contractor came in the next day, cleaned them up, put them back up, and we haven't had any trouble since.
So when will the washroom be running again?
It is running now. It started yesterday.
Thank you.
Councilor Colclough. Councilor Hain. Councilor Olson.
Nothing.
Nothing from myself. CEO's report, 22nd quarter report. Mr. McRae, provided for information, questions or otherwise. Councilor Hain.
Yeah, thanks for the report. I found it interesting. A couple of things that I'm looking forward to is, and my question is, there's an economic development strategy pending. So is that going to go out this month, or what? You say July 2016. So are we looking to send it off to see if we can get a grant, or?
Through your worship, what we're doing right now is between myself and the Director of Corporate Services for Corporate Administration, completing the RFP that has been designated in the strategic plan. So we're doing it in conjunction with potentially looking at timing as to whether if we attend UDCM and if we get the right meetings to look at access for grants and those economic development strategies. So that's all dependent on timing right now.
Okay. And then just another follow-up. I've had a number of residents ask me, and I just want to confirm that they can go to the district office and get copies of the subdivision applications for the G property, the Ryland property, and any changes I hear that are coming on the Foothills property.
It's all
So they can try to get copies. But they can get copies.
Some of
It's a
this,
substantial file.
Yeah.
Oh, is
The
it?
way to come like copies. I mean, if they ask for copies, there's a great set of the bylaw for copies. So certainly that's possible.
And council can pull the fees, I would assume.
They're
Get a
open
copy.
for public view.
Councillor Aaron?
Thank you, Your Worship. I had a question, moving back to item 4, Department Updates, Finance. It says the Director of Financial Services and the CAO have been working together to move through the district's finances and continue on the path of a financial system review. And I'm wondering at what point, if there is one, will there be some kind of summary report provided on that? I know anything that's significant, staff will bring to council to be dealt with as it arises, but I'm wondering, will there come a point where there will be some kind of summary report to reflect what the financial system review resulted in?
Through your worship, there is the tentative plan to be able to bring that forward to council. We would obviously like to get that forward. However, given the matters we're dealing with right now, we're dealing with more of the operational matters instead of moving forward on reports to be able to encompass that. In saying that, we just completed the 2016 tax year. We just completed a couple other things. So we're hoping, and I'm using this term very facetiously, our downtime, that we hope to be able to bring that report to council at the 1st of September.
Okay, thank you. Further? Under public works, it's a small point, but I had a crosswalk question mark. Was that not undertaken by public works?
Your worship, yes, it was. It's just one of the things that we left off. We tried to keep it as succinct as possible.
Okay, just wondered.
Fair enough.
And finally, I think I didn't pick up completely on Councillor Ames' questions around the community planning. I had, I think, similar questions to hers, which around the applications that we have at the moment. There's the Foothills, the G property, the Ryland property. By the way, could somebody enlighten me, where is the Ryland property?
Very end of Lanceville Road where the bunnies.
Oh, right, so I know where that is. Yeah, I just didn't know it by that name. Are there any progress reports or updates on those that are significant?
Through your worship, at this time, the programs are in different phases of moving forward. That would be if members of council, members of the public wish to view the documentation that we have in the permit, they can view it, and that would be that at the stage.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Paulson.
Coattailing on the community planning section there. Not sure how the rest of you feel, but I would like a more proactive communication stream from staff when major development applications come in. The G property I learned about at the Water Town Hall meeting, or a meeting here I think, and I learned about the Ryland property development from reading this report. So something a little more proactive would be appreciated by myself. The other question I had is the IT request for proposal. Has that gone out, or is that still awaiting something?
Through your worship, it's sitting currently with the Director of Corporate Administration, given that we've had weekly meetings here that's fallen off to the side. We have been going to start that focus here shortly. It's getting close to being ready to be put out.
Councilor Haynes?
Just for a follow-up on Councilor Colson's comments on the community planning, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't the G and the Ryland properties require OCP amendments? So there's going to be like a full process involved around these, correct?
That's
So it's
correct.
more than just a rezoning application. Okay, so yeah, so like Councilor Colson, if it's something significant that requires an OCP amendment, a significant public process, it would be nice to get the heads up on what's happening, because we're getting these questions from the residents, and right now, it's kind of like a washroom. Wow.
Through your worship, given that we are prepared to comment that to council because they haven't indicated to us where they're at. We're in the process of taking in all the referrals, et cetera. So for us to give something to council right now in regards to when property taxes for an OCP review would be very premature.
Councilor Wilson?
Sorry, I think kind of what I'm looking for is an email or something, by the way, this development application is coming, something that simple, so that when we do get questions, we are in the loop. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Anything further? Just my question is revolving around the audiovisual side. When's that?
Tomorrow morning, 10:30.
Okay. So is it a one-day sort of thing?
No, it's going to be about a 4-day process between making things look professional and cleaned up, et cetera. So the delay was because of the camera.
Yeah.
So now that they've secured the proper one, it's, you know.
Is there any real disruption other than in this room? Okay, anything further from council? Motion to receive, Councilor Cole, Councilor Neary. Discussion, all those in favor, opposed, motion carries. Fire Chief's report. Chief Chapman put together a report detailing the second quarter activities. Councilor Neary?
Thank you, Worship. I have some questions around this for mostly ignorance. Under member training on page 13, it says 3 FR sessions were held, as well as 2 of our members completed a co-teach course. What does the FR stand for? Fire response, fire rescue, something entirely different?
For your worship, first responder.
Okay, thank you. And on page 14, under the items entitled activities, it refers in the second sentence to we continue to attend the Swartstone Laleon Centre to assist with their accreditation. And I just wondered, what kind of accreditation?
For your worship, the Society of the News First Nations, their facility needs to do monthly fire drills in order to meet their accreditation with their organization. So we assist them with that.
Okay. And so the assistance that, and the other thing is, it says as well, members assisted with Aspen Grove Charity Bike Ride and Seaview Elementary. And I'm wondering in what capacity, what was the assistance that was offered?
And through your worship, we assisted with the Aspen Grove of safely getting the riders across the highway on Superior Road. And at Seaview Elementary, long-standing tradition, the fire department goes down and barbecues for the grade 7s and sets up for some water activities, having fun with the kids and the parents. And the fire department received a very nice email from a new resident to the area, mentioning how that type of thing shows the fire department's a pillar of the community and was well received.
Sweet, thank you. Oh, and I had one of the 2 other questions on abbreviations. On page 15, we have the local fire some changes as the local fire assistant fire commissioners will be phased out and the AHJ.
Your worship, that's the authority having jurisdiction, which would be yourselves.
Oh, okay, authority having some
That's a TLA,
jurisdiction.
3-letter acronym.
And the BC MSA, something safety authority or safety association?
Your worship, that would be the British Columbia Municipal Safety
So
Association.
basically, okay, thank you very much indeed, appreciate that. And I just wanted to say that I put great in the margin against the item dealing with documentation and filing. I applaud you for that. I think that's great that you've got a hand on something so efficiently. I'm sure it helps you tremendously.
Okay. That was Councillor Hain, that was Councillor Coulson, that was Councillor Colclough.
Yeah, thank you. Through you to staff, on page 14, you say that you've canceled outdoor burning and permits for burn barrels, which is great, you normally do. What about smoke houses? I get residents warning me about problems with smoke houses where they burn for 24, 48 or longer, and they produce a lot of smoke. Are they covered under our burning bylaws?
Through your worship, currently there's nothing in our bylaw referring to smokehouses.
Should there be? Is that something we could look at?
Through your worship, certainly, definitely, we could look at it and have it identified, at least naming it so that people are aware of what it is, and then reviewing to see what the issue is.
Councillor Coulson.
Two things then. So on the burning, I thought we were going to have a more comprehensive review of the burning bylaw at some point. I forget when we talked about that, but I thought strategic plan.
So when it comes to that aspect, in your CEO and Chief Chatton will look at to recommend some adjustments in order to provide clarity, et cetera. So those are adjustments that we come to.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And regarding the, sir?
CEO, what is that?
He just answered what I was going to say.
Well, I was going to say, regarding the fire department involvement at the school, and delved into that crowd these days, and yeah, it's really appreciated. So it's a great thing, and retiring teachers get a ride on the old fire truck, or they perhaps get a little more direct involvement in driving the fire truck. So it's really cool. So thanks.
Through your worship, just want to make sure we recognize that those are the volunteer association members doing that, doing it on their own time, and truly volunteering for the community.
Yeah. On the water activities, there's kids in kindergarten, grade 1, that have gone when their brother or sister's in grade 7 and participated in it, and they talk about it, and it's quite cool. You hear them talk about it at the end of school, so it's good.
And through your worship, hopefully we can use that as a recruiting drive for future years.
With the big hoses.
Councillor Colclough.
I just want to add congratulations on Deputy Zone Director for Vancouver Island.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's going to you didn't show up at a meeting, huh? Just say. Any further from council? Okay, hearing none, motion received. Thank you, Councillor Colclough. Thank you, Councillor Mary. Thank you, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Parks and Rec Commission meeting minutes. Provided for information. Received by Councillor Colclough, second by Councillor Hain. Any discussion? Councillor Mary?
I didn't mark it. There's a typo in there somewhere. And it's not significant.
It doesn't change the meaning
No.
or anything? Okay, so if you could just, when it comes up.
Yeah, it would be at the Parks and Rec Commission that the typo would be corrected.
Okay.
The W and the A and L WAG were reversed.
Okay.
Follow?
Anything further? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to receive? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, which Yeah, sorry, Councilor Colson, question. At the committee of the whole, we discussed the recommendation to provide additional funds to the DCC project related specifically to water.
Okay, is that up
water
next?
projects. So recognizing
Yep, no, I'll leave
previously.
it. Yep.
Sorry, I needed to say.
I forget what the reason was. But you captured it in the minutes very quite nicely. Can I get permission?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't bring my committee of the whole stuff. It was in the committee of the whole minutes.
Okay.
You have your committee
Like
of
you
the
said the last time.
Yeah. That's big.
It's making me the whole agenda.
Yep.
You just need to state that out loud. I'm not allowed to put words in your mouth.
Pursuant to Section 100 of the Community Charter, I declare that I am unable to speak or vote on the development cost charges as there are potential actions I may take on a request previously considered by council for a refund of a water DCC charge for property that I own. I am immediately leaving the meeting.
Otherwise known as cut and paste. Okay, so we've got the minutes from the earlier meeting. There's a recommendation there with regards to the approval of budget 14,000 for purposes of completing the DCC charges or DCC bylaw review. Moved by Councilor Neri, second by Councilor Kolhoff. Any discussion? Councilor,
I'm a little concerned that we're just throwing it into general revenue and thinking about running a deficit. It's not usually the way I like to do things. I like to know the funding source first, so I'm having some concerns with that.
Mr.
It's
McCray?
a 1% tax increase.
Mr. Your Worship, after discussions with staff, I'm reminded that we were setting up contingency funds. And say that I don't have my Director of Financial Services this evening to provide an explanation on where the funding would come from, and saying that when she returns, I can provide that to council.
I mean, when it comes to the aspect of the motion can be amended to say specifically to the funds that come out of the contingency. If that makes council more comfortable. Okay. Any further from council? Okay, hearing none, all's in favor of the motion? Opposed?
So was the motion amended?
No.
Okay.
Motion carries. We approved minutes earlier.
We do this right
I didn't ask for the.
Oh, right.
Oh, I guess it was Councilor Colson can come back. Yeah, minutes, unless they're expected to be discussion then.
Yeah.
Yeah, the air kind of cleared up there.
Check that burning bylaw.
That is.
The burning bylaw. Okay, which gets us down to late item 8A, which is this one here. Which on this one here, myself, excuse ourselves, myself.
So we have a business relationship.
Are you declaring as a
Same.
business relationship?
Okay, has everybody had a chance to look at the report? This is through staff at this point. We need to do these motions individually.
Yes.
So looking for the first motion, council to receive the petition. Moved by Councilor Leary, second by Councilor Swain. Any discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Second recommendation, council to give first reading to bylaw Lanceville sanitary sewer collection system phase 2 local area service bylaw number 75/2009, amendment number 75.3/2016. Move for that. Moved by Councilor Swain, second by Councilor Leary. Any discussion? Councilor Leary.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've read the report. It seems pretty straightforward. The recommendation is to grant the bylaw. I'm assuming there are no anticipated hitches or reasons why it shouldn't be granted. Looks straightforward. Yeah.
Just make sure it's a question of the statement before I respond. So, through your worship, yes, it's something that staff has looked at. It's the individual's not causing an extension of the main trunk line. It's not a group of individuals. It's a single individual is attaching onto a service that's directly adjacent to its property. The individual will be doing all the work, being overseen by the Director of Public Works at no cost of ours. The petition has been reviewed by counsel, legal counsel I should say, and as you'll note, that provisos that the applicant is subjected to any bylaws, policies, etc. that the municipality does come into now and in the future.
With the added benefit that the property owner and council as a whole avoids one more septic system being installed.
That is correct.
So, based on everything I've read and heard, I will support this.
Just a general question. So is this a process we'll go through every time someone connects either phase 1 or phase 2?
Through your worship, yes, this would be your petition and your very service. Because of that, we need a mechanism to do that, so you're buying into the system essentially. So, yes, if individual owners, I'm just looking to my Director of Public Works to make sure I'm not here on this, that individual owners, every time this has to happen, they have to petition those involved in the local area service.
Could you say, I think the only exception to that would be if for some reason there was a large number, and so then it can be done the way it was done in the past, where it's by council initiative, and we publish the notice, we send notices to those residents that have been identified, and then they have the opportunity to petition against. So it's a much more onerous, more complex process, and
yeah, I'll ask owners. So it sounds like council has to be involved just due to the local area service. There's nothing we could implement or develop because it's really an operational thing for the most part.
That is correct. However, it is council's purview to review individual petitions, especially it's not council's purview.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Number 3, the council give second reading. Same bylaw. Moved by Councilor Neary, second by Councilor Coulson. Any comments, questions? None. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And number 4, the council give third reading to the bylaw. Moved by Councilor Neary, second by Councilor Swain. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
takes us to new business.
Yep.
OCP review and update 2016 contract award was a staff recommendation as well as a report. The recommendation of awarding Lanark 2015 Consultants LTD the contract for OCP update. Moved by Councillor Colclough, seconded by Councillor Swain. Thank you. Discussion. Councillor Henry.
In the past, whenever we've done our request for proposal, council's got a list of all the applicants and what their fee was, a little bit more detailed than this. Is that all public record? Can we come in and look at those? They should be.
Yep.
Okay. And we can have copies of them?
And through your worship there for, I believe, viewing, well, the director.
Yeah, I haven't looked at what the content is, and so under OI, sometimes portions need to be started depending on what information they've provided. So I'd have to go with the community planner, what's in the package.
So if there's nothing that needs to be severed,
Yeah.
you have a copy. Okay. It's just, it would be nice to have seen the various applicants. It's hard to make a decision when you don't really know what the other people had to offer. So we've always received that in the past. It's kind of like when we appoint people to a committee, we usually see the list. Or when we do a sewer job or a water line, we see all the applicants that have requested it, have submitted a response to an RFP. I wish we'd seen that.
Mr. McCray.
Through your worship, council refers to page 18 discussion. The applicants are listed out below in regards to who did apply.
Yeah.
In my previous dealings with this, given that it's an operational matter in regards to scoring and eventual providing council with that award, this has been the way that reports have been done previously with me. In saying that, if council wants a more fulsome explanation with that, next time we come up for RFPs with that, we can gladly do so.
Yes. I'd like that.
Councillor Mary.
Thank you, Worship. To the staff, I had a couple of questions related to the evaluation. Obviously, the proposals were rated or assessed against the criteria, and one of the questions that I have is, was there any particular strength demonstrated by the recommended proponent that, you know, put it over and above the other applicants, gave reason for recommendation, or was it just an all-round general preference based on, you know, across the board?
So just to Mayor, the council, just to give you a highlight as to how we evaluate the process. So yeah, criteria, and each proposal was evaluated based on that criteria. Staff did review it, and I say staff that included myself, or the public works, and our CAO. And we each reviewed it individually. We also reviewed it as a team. And the bottom line is that all four firms that submitted are highly regarded, highly respected in their field. What separated the Lanark proposal from the rest was really the level of detail that they put into their proposal. And I think part of it is the fact that, you know, the principals within the firm are local to the Nanaimo area, so they're quite familiar with Lansdowne. And so it was very clear as we were evaluating the process, and I think all three of us came to the same conclusion in terms of how we ranked the proposals. It was clear that Lanark went that extra mile, if you will, to explain the process, the steps that are to be taken in terms of going through the OCP review process.
Okay, and then supplementary is in terms of, I presume they quoted an estimate of what they expected the process to cost. Was there a huge spread, a narrow spread? Were they the lowest bidder, the highest bidder?
Actually, in terms of the spread, there wasn't a wide gap from a price perspective. All the proposals were in and around the budgeted amount at the end of the day. So really, price was not a factor in the decision. It really came down to the other criteria that we put forward. And you know, like I say,
further discussion? Councillor Coulson.
Sorry, just two. So, not that it's terribly important, but is Lanark still heavily associated with Golder, or is it kind of more of a soft link? Or
They were, yes, so they were their own firm. They were purchased by Golder. That partnership has since dissolved, and so the principal on the project, Dave Reed, the project lead for legal security review, has come to agreements with Golder to restart Lanark, if you will. But it's practically the same core team.
Okay.
So the separation was, as I understand it, amicable between Golder and Lanark.
Okay, thank you. And the second one I had, just on the financial implications, I thought we had $100,000 set aside for it, and this shows 115.
I did double check with, I checked with our budget and our director of finance on that number. The bottom line is all the proposals came in around 100,000. So we're not going to exceed the budget.
Okay.
Okay. Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Water Master Plan, 2016 contract award, staff recommendation, again, on that 2015 consultant staff review for the Water Master Plan. Moved by Councillor Popa, seconded by Councillor Neary. Discussion, Councillor Neary.
Thank you, Your Worship. My questions on this recommendation are basically the same ones before. And given that the same applicant is the one that has been selected, to save a lot of time, would it be safe for me to assume that the selection was made on very similar basis? You know, application rated against the terms of reference, the level of detail, and so on and so forth? Okay. And I can't remember seeing, oh yeah, there were only 2 applicants, so there wasn't a lot of comparison to make here, there wasn't. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Neary.
And again, reviewing the applicants, the proposal submitted are public documents, residents can come look at them.
Yes, your worship, to say before they are, if the public wishes to be on
Councillor Coulson.
Just a soft question. Any thoughts as to why only 2 applicants?
Through the chair, basically, in the world of consulting, it's a very small project. And this time of year, a lot of consulting firms are really busy with boots on the ground projects that are on the go already. So I suspect that was why we didn't get a lot. We had probably 4 inquiries from 4 different firms, but only 2 actually ended up in this case.
Thank you.
Again, the dollars, budget of 100,000. They quote. Is there a number?
With the RFP, similar to the OCP, we used the same rating, and their number was within the budget.
Just, and the same thing applies to the other one. I kind of like to see a number in the future. And I realize the scoring doesn't put complete emphasis on the number, but
And just for clarification, the RFPs, we don't normally give out numbers because they're not rated on the actual cost. The final amount, yes, we can actually tell you that, and I can sit here and tell you that basically everyone did their homework and they knew the budget was 100,000. So that's where the ball came from.
and the reality is if you don't put a number in the budget, they're not going to bid because they're going to go, oh, they want it for 20K. So, chicken and egg. Yeah. So, okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Councillor Colcott.
I move that council direct staff provide an update on the rehabilitation within the district's Harvey Road Wellfield and further staff contact the owners of well number 11 and invite them to include, at their cost, well 11 during pump testing of the district's Harvey Road Wellfield once the well rehab is complete.
You seconded? Seconded by Councillor Swain. Discussion. Anything to add?
It's just one of those things actually similar to the last conversation here, I'd just like to see something succinct where there's a summary of here's well 6A, 12, et cetera, so that we do have questions from people in the public asking where things are at, so it would be nice to have those numbers.
Councillor Colson.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, and I believe we got an email from Lance Gesselbrecht detailing why. So I would invite all of us to review that again, but I think it's an important thing to do.
Anything further? Councillor Hain.
So are you looking for this to be done now or at the end of the summer? Just
No.
just now?
Yep, the stuff that's been done, so
Okay.
the big pump test will be at the end of summer.
Yeah. So the two reports kind of.
Actually, just for clarification, are you suggesting a pump test now and one at the end of the summer, or you're just talking about the data at the end of the summer?
Well, they've done the pump tests. My understanding is they've done the pump tests when they do the individual work on the wells.
Yeah.
But the comprehensive pump test would be done backwards at a lower point later in the year.
Okay, so that's what you're proposing to talk to them about?
Yep.
Getting that done. Okay, I just want to make sure there wasn't another one in there for the summer. Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Item 9D, the motion regarding the recording of in-camera meetings. Councillor Swain.
Thank you, through the chair. I move that council authorizes staff to develop a policy prohibiting audio and or video recording of in-camera meetings.
Second. Second by Councillor Colquitt. Discussion. Councillor Swain.
So speaking to the motion, it's come to light that this may be happening and it does really concern me. My concerns are not really driven from the fear of the public knowing how I personally conduct myself during these in-camera meetings. I think at this point, what I'm also really concerned about is security of the digital information and how that information is stored. In particular, is actually safeguarding the District of Lanceville employees and personnel information as that can be discussed during these in-camera meetings, as well as other legal matters that can be discussed during these meetings. I think it does put the district at significant liability if this information somehow is accidentally apprehended, and it could be hacked or leaked or whatever it might be. And personally, I don't, and we all know this, I believe, is that this does not basically remove a person's ability to record meetings if they choose to do so, but they will be acting as individuals at that point. When I ran in this election, basically I made a commitment to the Lanceville residents to move forward and to continue working cooperatively and respectively with all the council. And personally, I do think this somewhat undermines that theme. If we're going to move forward with secret recordings driven by mistrust, I do think that this will limit this council to effectively operate.
Councillor Hain.
Yeah, this is about developing a policy. Actually, I'd like to do a friendly amendment to the motion. Basically, policy where maybe an individual doesn't record it, but staff continue to record it, just so that there is a recording for the council or for the corporation's benefit. And if I get a second, I'll speak to that.
Yes, it's not friendly amendment, it's an amending motion.
Oh, okay, amending motion.
So, state your motion.
That I guess it is different. This is the same as topic. Basically, my motion is that we allow staff to record the in-camera meetings instead of an individual. And if I get a second, I'll speak to it.
Councillor Colson.
Yeah, basically, as an elected official, I have no concerns about my comments being recorded. I don't say anything that I'm not afraid to have recorded. I think what it does is it keeps the record straight. As we've heard in the past, there's sort of rumors about stuff that goes on in cameras. This would take that all away because there's a recorded record of what goes on in camera. So it's not being released, it's not any different than any other corporate information that's held by the district. If we're concerned about leaking information or something being divulged, then we need to worry about the whole in-camera agenda, because it can be photocopied and given out too. So I just think, you know what, it's a good practice to get into. We're now looking at recording our regular meetings and all our other meetings, so why not record the in-camera meetings? And then we do have that record on behalf of the district.
Councilor Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think on the surface, what Councillor Hayes just said makes sense. However, ultimately, even recording, and I've been in a situation where this is the norm, where the organisation records the audio recording, all meetings, certainly of the board. However, having said that, I think we've got to ask ourselves, what's the purpose? Why do you need to record a meeting? Certainly an open meeting allows us to provide a record, a public record of proceedings, what's taking place, businesses that's conducted as a public meeting. But at an in-camera meeting, the whole point of the meeting is that it's in camera, and that information, regardless of what took place in the meeting, will never be released unless council directs that, you know, an item be reported out. And even that item being reported out is not a record of the discussions that took place, what people said, how they conducted themselves. It is simply a record of a decision that was made by council. So I totally and utterly support the idea of recording open public meetings, but since this question has now arisen, and previously I never had that choice because it was just a practice that took place, I find it difficult to support the idea that we would record them as an entity, because it comes down to the question of for what purpose? Why would we need to record in-camera meetings? Because the very nature of the meetings are confidential. And it's, you know, it's incumbent on every member sitting at the table and at that table there to keep it confidential. You can't control people's behaviour. If they betray that confidence, there's nothing you can do about them or stop them from doing that. If you find out after the fact, then there may be measures that can be put in place. But I can't support even council recording the in-camera meetings for all the reasons that I've stated. I think I'd be hard pressed to be convinced otherwise. It just doesn't seem to serve a purpose. You've got a record in the minutes, which is available for council, and if council chooses to release some information from those minutes, that's council's prerogative and probably responsibility to do so in some instances. But otherwise, I just don't see why we would need to do that.
You or me? Councilor Wilson?
Are we sure this is a lawful thing to do? Can you make a motion like this?
We can make any motion we so wish.
This is for the staff amendment, you call it? It's on the amendment.
Oh, sorry, it's on the...
Oh, sorry, on the amendment, sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, yeah, staff recording. Okay, fair enough. It's interesting that many of you have been approaching this as if something will untoward come from it. Take the other perspective. It's an archive of what actually happened. Solid evidence, perhaps. It could protect the district's interests. The minutes are what they are, but they really don't capture the discussion, the tone, all of the underlying back and forth of what led to a motion. And so I find them quite valuable. I also go back and refer to them as a reference tool quite frequently. that's where I do it. And you don't have to dance around or beat around the bush. I'm the one that's been doing it. Sorry, I'll stop there.
That's good. Councilor Murray, for what purpose? Having been the subject of public allegations and potentially libelous statements in the public that made reference to in-camera meetings, I would support the motion without the amendment. Because when it comes to the aspect of that record, it's not just about the motions when there are public allegations of what occurred in those meetings. And just as a correction, there's in fact 2 points where those could be released. Number 1 would be by council, number 2 by the courts. And so in the case of a legal action that's being taken in regards to the activities within an in-camera meeting, the courts can order the release of them. And so, again, as Councillor Coulson pointed out, in order to protect the district, in my opinion, it needs to be an accurate record. And with regards to the concern as to who retains that record, if it's district staff or the district generally speaking, we have the capability of doing it. Therefore, from that standpoint, there would be no additional responsibility. Councillor Haynes?
And it protects each member of council, so that when these false allegations are made, there is an opportunity for the record to be set straight by council. So it can stop or prevent liable issues down the road. So to me, it never hurts to have accurate records. Then it can stop all that stuff that goes on.
Councillor Colcott, for the
Well, I think the minutes record accurately the outcome of the meeting, and what occurs during the debate is another story, and somebody may speak for something and then in the end vote against it because of the discussion that took place. So having a little bit of information could actually be dangerous or used in the wrong way. Question through you to staff. In any of your experiences in the past, have in-camera meetings been recorded? Or is that a common practice? Or
Through your worship, in the 4 municipalities I work in, no, I was not. In saying that, I'm speaking for 155 municipalities before I worked in, they have not visually recorded in-camera meetings. I will defer this over to the Director of Corporate Administration, her experiences.
So I have 3 municipalities to add to this 5, and as well I have participating in, the LGMA corporate administrators discussion groups and FOI committee developing the manual, and it's unheard of to record. In fact, most places have legal advice to not produce extensive minutes coming out of those meetings, because there are other circumstances where the record could and would be released besides. And as well, and any time we get into an electronic records system, it then again adds more staff to it, more cost and more time, because people can, FOI, they can request those, and they have to be maintained in a certain way. There has to be security on it, and then there's staff time to listen through the recording, because at any point, if during the meeting there was an item that happened to be talked about that was beyond the mandate of a closed meeting, then it could be released, or something that was later released could then be released. Also, there's a time factor where things get released after a certain time period. So, yeah.
Good, thank you.
Further discussion? Sorry, Councillor Steve.
Okay, yeah, so through the chair, again, this isn't to replace anybody's right to individually record a meeting if they choose to do so. So to keep that top of mind. Again, if we go to a system where the district is recording, I'm not strongly opposed to that, because at least we know how that information is being safeguarded. Again, this is, we are dealing with staff's confidential information as well as, individuals within our community. And if that's ever breached, then the whole district is essentially at risk. So every taxpayer is at risk, and we'll have to pick up the legal bill, any actions that are taken against the district, as far as I'm aware.
Councillor Paulson.
Are you certain about that? Because someone could come into your house and steal your in-camera binder. What's the difference? Right? Just because you're in the possession of district material doesn't put every taxpayer at risk, I would suggest. And so I question those comments. And the other thing I'll ask, so if this isn't restricting anyone's rights to actually record, what's the point of having it? What's it going to accomplish? Unless staff is going to begin recording meetings, and then there's the whole discussion around that.
Okay, any further discussion on the amendment?
Sorry, can we repeat where we're at?
Okay, the amendment itself revolves around the district recording in camera.
Okay.
So the motion I have for the amendment, so the main motion is that council authorizes staff to develop a policy prohibiting audio and or video recording of in-camera meetings. The amendment was that council amends the motion on the floor, striking prohibiting and inserting that staff, and striking recording, inserting record. So now it would read that council authorizes staff to develop a policy that staff audio and or video record in-camera meetings.
Try that again.
That council authorizes staff, so if the amendment passes, this is what the main motion would be that you're voting on. So what you're voting on right now is the amendment, and it's to amend the motion on the floor, striking prohibiting, inserting that staff, and striking recording now, and inserting record. So then, at the end of the day, if that passes, you'd be voting on a motion that says that council authorizes staff to develop a policy that staff record, or that staff audio and or video record in-camera meetings.
That's quite different than the motion, the original motion. It seems like more than an amendment.
Sorry, Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's a bit of a conundrum, isn't it? I was convinced at one point that maybe it was safer and easier and would obviate the need to worry about that kind of... it would obviate the need for an individual to record if staff did it. However, having heard what I've heard from staff, there's a counter-argument to that merits thinking about. As I said, I have come from a situation where this was routinely done at closed meetings. They were recorded. Did people go and check the contents of the recording? I don't know. Security of storage is a very significant issue, and the burden that it will place on the district in keeping those recordings and archiving them, I think some very good points have been made about that. So, on balance, because I am so conflicted about this, I will not be supporting the amendment, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Comments about being unheard of. Well, how many municipalities have had 4 councillors resign to loss of quorum and required the province to step in? Mr. McRae, how many are you aware of?
We're sitting on it, Your Worship.
Okay, so we had a situation that was unheard of, and I would suggest that one of the key reasons for the supporting of the district recording relates to the activities that occurred or didn't occur, and therefore to protect the interests of the individuals involved, including staff. And with regards to the questions and the stress and the extra effort, et cetera, put on staff, we're here to serve the residents. And how were the residents served by those activities over a year ago? I would suggest they were not served very well at all. And therefore, if there had been full information available, from that standpoint there. That may or may not have occurred, suggested that we didn't. So like I said, I won't support the main amendment, the main motion without the amendment. Is there anything further on the amendment? Hearing none, all those in
Recorded vote, please.
Recorded vote. All those in favor of the amendment? Councillor Swain, Councillor Hain, Mayor Hain, Councillor Coulson. Opposed? Councillor Colclough and Councillor Neary. Back to the main motion as amended. Any additional discussion?
Do we do that?
Councillor Swain?
Yeah, I think it, or through the chair, sorry. I believe this is, we're in the early stages. We're developing policy. So we'll see what comes of staff's recommendations in the development of this policy and whether or not it's going to be feasible. But it is development policy.
Councillor Neary?
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, I can see obviously the amendments passed, so the main motion in theory is going to pass as well. So it's almost a moot point. I understand why there would be a motivation to do this. I'm not going to support the main motion as amended, simply because of the same reasons that I stated in speaking to the amendment. I am not fully comfortable with my understanding of how this will look and how it will work out, and I'm just not there. So I'm not going to support the main motion. It may prove that it was a foolish thing to do to not support it. Evidently, going upstream against the current here, but so be it.
Councillor Colclough.
And I don't have a big issue with the district recording meetings. I do have an issue with individuals recording meetings. So I won't support the motion because it doesn't say what it originally intended.
Councillor Hain?
I'm confused. I don't know where we're at. Because the previous motion contradicts this motion that's before us now. It was giving council.
I put that down. That's probably the best thing.
The motion that's on the floor right now is the motion as amended, that council authorizes staff to develop a policy that staff audio and or video record in-camera meetings.
Oh, so taking out the word prohibited now?
That already happened, that was your last motion.
Oh, was it? Okay, I thought there was something. I thought that was getting staff to, okay, never mind. I'm good.
Your main motion directs staff to go through the task, not that it prohibits anything specific. It's just the staff that's
Okay, sorry. Recorded vote.
You know where we're at?
I think so.
Councillor
I'll just Bridgewater, world's largest hedge fund. They record everything. Everything.
We're the world's largest.
No. But they're a pretty big deal in corporate America, and they record everything. Meetings with the boss, clients, personnel matters, everything's recorded. That's a hell of a step forward in transparency, I would think. You might never need it, but if you did, you got records of everything.
And when it comes to things like policies are somewhat fluid. Once a policy is implemented, if something becomes more onerous or too expensive, or in some cases, some piece of policy isn't being used, then it change. But with regards to something like the recordings of the meeting, how can you get back what you didn't record? So, okay, clear on where we're at? Okay. All those, recorded votes have been requested. All those in favor of the motion? Councillor Swain, Councillor Hain, Councillor Colclough, Councillor Coulson, Mayor Hain, opposed? Councillor Neary, motion carried. Okay, item 9E, one speak, community engagement. Councillor Coulson.
I move that council request staff to contact One Feather to arrange for a presentation of One Feather's community engagement /election /mobile voting software. He said one speak. That's fine. One Feather. Yeah.
My apologies.
Sir, could you repeat that, Mr.
Council
request staff to contact One Feather?
Yep. To arrange for a presentation of One Feather's community engagement /election /mobile voting software. Yeah, one of these meetings.
Yeah.
Just- Or committee of the whole.
Committee of the whole?
I don't really care.
So the council requests staff to contact One Feather to arrange for a presentation to a committee of the whole meeting of One Feather's community engagement / election / mobile voting software.
Is that it?
That was the motion? Yep.
Okay, second by Councillor Hain. Discussion, Councillor Coulson.
I spoke a little bit about it in my verbal update last week, so I'll just rehash that. When we first got emailed by Lawrence Lewis, is the head of it, he had contacted us when we were heading into the by-election, wondering if we were interested in such a thing. I never spoke with him, but a couple months ago I thought I'd just email him to see what his tool was all about. And at the time I was thinking it was just for elections, referendums, elections and stuff. But as I talked to him, it's more of a broader community engagement tool. So it can be used for referendums or elections, but you can also use it for polls, surveys and such in the community. Right now, he's primarily in First Nations. I think he said 186 sites. I could be wrong. But he's trying to break into local government. And we didn't talk costs of his software, but he says the pricing could be fairly attractive if he got a pilot project going. The one number I did talk to him about, our by-election cost $22,000, give or take. He said using his tool, a couple grand was the estimate he gave. Now, I've heard that it's not allowable by the community charter. I haven't looked into all that. He said the software is certified under, I can't remember if it was Elections BC or a federal branch. Sorry, I can't remember, but in talking with him, I left the conversation thinking it was certified for that use. That's really all I know. I talked to him about 10 minutes. Where I was really drawn was possibly the broader community engagement side too. You get people to submit their names. It creates the electoral database essentially. You can peel it off in pieces. So, say you want to talk to Winchelsea about a burning issue. You can fire off a question. They respond by email. Apparently there's an interface that people can actually check their result. And that was a way to ensure data quality, kind of a soft way. But we got a lot of things coming down the pipeline with water, the OCP. It could be quite handy, and if it is allowable to do election stuff with it, local service area stuff perhaps.
Just a quick question regarding the technology. Is it computer based or is it mobile based, iPad based?
I think all the above, but I'm not positive. Okay. Yeah. And that's where I thought I kind of took it as far as I was comfortable taking it. I thought, well, I'll bring it before council and see if there's any interest in learning more, see if there's a fit.
Councilor Mary.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think any kind of new approach to community engagement is worth looking at. However, I don't feel that council should be soliciting companies or individuals who deliver those services. I would like to see this outfit have the opportunity to maybe bid if and when we come up to community consultations or engagement processes. I don't think council should be interacting directly with individuals or companies who are going to be or could be applying to RFPs, tenders, whatever the process is for procuring these kind of services. It just doesn't sit right with me, and I can't entirely put my finger on it, except that I feel as if it's kind of like it shows a bias. On the one hand, is there any harm in hearing information? No, if an individual steps up and says, I've got these services, and you listen to it, and then you refer them to staff. Talk to staff, And if there's any, any interest there, or there's any opportunity for you, they will show you how you can apply. But to be actually inviting people in and asking them to present, that kind of steps over a line for me. And it might be an imaginary line, but nevertheless, I'm just not comfortable with it. We certainly, as far as for instance, the water plan is concerned, we have just awarded the contract to a consultant who no doubt will use a plethora of methods to engage the community in consultation on the development of that plan. And I would hope that that consultant would be encouraged to look at all of those different media approaches that are available these days, because we need to reach as many people and get feedback from as many people as possible. And I think this could be a great vehicle. I'm sure there are lots and lots and lots more out there. I know of one that springs to mind immediately. But would I kind of say, well, you should go and look at this? I might just say, I've used that before and it was great. Just bear it in mind. But I don't think I should be inviting people to come and tell me about the products they've got when I might down the road be making decisions about who's being used to deliver what services. I don't know whether that makes sense to all of you. I'm not sure that it makes total sense to me, but I'm kind of thinking as I go.
Councillor Hain.
Well, I like the idea. I like it because I'm technology ignorant. I don't know a lot of the stuff that goes out there, so if Lanark came and told me that this is the only way to get community involvement, I'd have to believe them, because I wouldn't know any other way. This is an opportunity to bring someone who's really just looking to provide us with some information. We're not doing a request for proposal or doing anything now. It's just getting information, which is another little bit of food for thought to help us to engage our residents. This would also give the residents some ideas of ways that they could have been engaged. We don't know they're going to get those things. So to me, this is about opening a door to technology that we may not get unless we have someone come to us and tell us what's out there. We've got 7, 8 big issues on our community planning. We're talking about major developments in the community. We need to make sure the residents are engaged in this process. And unfortunately, technology is going to be the way we do it, because people love the streaming of the council meetings right now. Everyone I talk to says when they need to know something, they go to the online site to look and see what's happening on a specific item. They don't want to come sit here anymore. Just our loyal guys come. But really, I want to hear what technology is out there, and I don't want to wait for a request for proposal. I want someone to tell me, because I literally don't know. I don't know about computers and stuff. So someone can say, you know what, we can set up these things where there's a program, I don't know what it's called, Mouse or something, where they can do, you can go online and cast your votes on stuff and put in some information. To me, that's engaging and intriguing. That's what I want to see. How do we get our community engaged in all of these community planning issues? And somebody telling me that there's simple things which are click of the mouse and that, I want to hear it, because I'm not sure I'm going to hear it from somebody else. I can't put my faith out there that we might get it from somebody else. I want to know that it's going to be out there. So you know what? It's just a presentation. If we don't invite them, fine, you can come as a delegation. But why not invite them? We're a friendly group, and we don't get a lot of delegations, so why not? What is it going to hurt?
Councillor Corporal.
Well, I waded in, as is often the case. Councillor Neary articulated my thoughts much better than I could. I have similar concerns. I don't have a major problem with somebody doing a 10-minute presentation. I do think that more appropriate would be to staff. But if we do invite them, if that's the case, then I think it needs to be very clear that they're aware that if we were to ourselves engage in that type of technology, that we would be doing it to the town. There would be no preference given. And certainly encourage them to be talking to Landmark, for sure. And that's where they should be putting their emphasis.
Further discussion. Councillor Sweeney.
Through the chair, I'm in support of this group coming in and presenting as a delegation. I think should be, if they feel that they need engagement methods of various sorts, then should be approaching the council to make those inquiries or requests. At this point, I think if they're going to come and present, fine. I'd be even open to extending their presentation if it's interesting information. But I think we need to have a sampling of different engagement methods or computer technologies coming at us, and I'd like to see staff maybe direct that as if staff is going to be using that information.
Councillor Coles?
Sorry, just like one thing. Councillor Hames' comments were great. This is to make input easier for residents. We'll get to how that impacts staff, but this is for residents. And if we can get much more timely, more volume, or more higher volume of feedback through some mechanism that's technology based, that's fantastic. I think we might not get everyone's interest. My dad hates computers. I recognize that. But he also hates sitting in this audience. So, it's a presentation. It might lead to something else. It might lead to nothing. It's a presentation. Whet our appetite of what could be done.
I struggle with the invitation part. Councillor Kolkoff made a suggestion of making it very, very clear that it was just general interest. It wasn't specific. It wasn't solicitation, that sort of thing. And that helps me a little bit. One thing to keep in mind is that anybody who comes and gives a presentation in that respect is going to show their technology, their approach, that sort of thing, which isn't going to be all-encompassing. It's not going to cover the full universe and ease. My question about whether or not it uses iPhones, that sort of thing revolves around that ease. The reality is the survey monkey, go to the website and that sort of thing. Realistically, people don't even have the patience to do that to a great extent anymore. So the idea of something additional, great in terms of being exposed to more. And when it comes to the aspect of, normally we have a broad-based idea and we say we want more community engagement, maybe use of cell phones, that sort of thing. Staff go find it. That's quite often the process of it. One of the problems, or not one of the problems, one of the reasons why I'd be interested in the presentation would be kind of the expansion of our worlds. Sometimes it's difficult to know what to ask for until you've been exposed to something additional. But like I said, I do worry about that solicitation message potentially being there. I would have preferred that it was just an invitation by Councillor Coulson, but as it stands, we've got a motion on the floor, and I hate to give an individual the wrong impression. No, we don't want to hear you by voting it down. So you end up with kind of a twist in between. So if it was, as long as the correspondence was very clear that it was just for information, that it was not a solicitation in any way, shape, or form, and that I'd be comfortable with it. When it comes to the aspect of expanding our worlds and expanding our knowledge so that we can ask for different things or realize what's possible and what's not. Councillor Corporal?
I was just going to suggest that we defeat the motion. They can come and make a request. They can be a delegation on their own part. It doesn't have to come from us.
I worry about the messaging on that too, and that's where I run into.
Well, it can be conveyed further.
Yeah. Mr. McRae?
Yes, Your Worship, and I don't mean to sway councillor in any way. There is an inherent issue. Staff get an email 1 to 2 times a week from a very similar request that we can give you the latest and greatest thing, and wishing to meet with us. Given that council has not given us a mandate, he has not given us a budget, has not given us a strategic priority direction, we don't engage them if we're being directly solicited. The concern it raises here in a purely administrative world is if we have one person come to the table, does that therefore require us to now, we think it's a great idea, so now we have to bring this forward to council because it might do the following. the other concern is here is that if council requests them coming to meet with us, it walks a fine line here between if a competition would ever come up. Council has asked them to come on down. And the concern is now that if there's another proponent that comes forward and is bidding, they can make an argument for inherent bias. That is a concern. So my recommendation to council would be to respond back to the individual and ask them to apply as a delegation. It serves no disrespect to the individual, provides council with the ability to hear the proponent, but they do it on their own merit, not on council requesting. That removes the bias.
Just clarification, would it be an individual?
If a councillor wished to approach the group or individual and say, please appear as a delegation and apply, then that would be the best way to avoid any perceived or potential conflict, especially if staff ended up going out for something along those lines that would use a technology such as this, and no one else would cry inherent bias. They applied as a delegation on their own.
Which everybody else has the right to do is correct. Councillor Paulson?
Well, see, I offer the counter to that too. If I go and ask them to come, someone could say there's a conflict for me now.
Yeah.
Right? It works both ways. Well, how do we get anything done? We just want some information.
Yeah, Mr. McRae, can you respond to that?
Your worships, RFPs are an administrative process, therefore it does not conflict the councillor out. RFPs, if we are moving forward on projects, we review those projects much like the OCP, much like the water master plan. We rate them and grade them and we award. So one councillor does not make the council body.
Councillor Paulson?
So if we were to go to an RFP, how would council know what to advise staff to put in the RFP? Until we know what is capable out there, right? There's that. You know, the CAO offered the explanation that they get weekly emails of similar type of technology. How come we haven't heard even a summary that has been occurring? This is the first time we've heard that there are other tools like that. So we don't even know that you're being solicited for community engagement tools. So, you know, from that example, we're relying on staff to bring forward information for us to act on or make decisions on. And so to use that as a justification to kind of defeat this, it seems poor.
You know, go beyond community engagement. The reality is part of an individual being a sales member for a company, they need to touch base with potential customers. The place that they typically touch base is through staff, emailing the district, etc. The reason why staff wouldn't have apprised us of that is because we have not got, for example, within a specific project that we want this tool, or we haven't reached with regards to some of our projects of getting to that point of community engagement. If staff was to forward, I would suggest, because I don't know emails that you get, but I know the amount of emails I get, garbage, our inboxes would be full. And so with respect to that, staff makes a decision based on the priorities of council of the day as to what needs to be presented. Response to that?
Yes. Let's step through this very simply. They come, they give us a presentation. It's partly on their tool, but partly on electronic community engagement. We like the idea, perhaps. Do we then tell staff to go issue them a PO right away? No, of course not. We say, we like what we saw. Staff, please give us a report on electronic or IT-based solutions for improving communications. Staff does their thing. This company might be on there, this company might not. It comes back to us, there's a recommendation, we approve a recommendation or make another recommendation, off we go, right? That's kind of the logical path this would take. And we've beaten this to the ground and we haven't even heard a presentation on it.
Councilor Muir?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think first, in response to the idea that a singular council would invite these people, I think it's pretty simple. It doesn't need to be an invitation. I think, you know, if somebody comes to me for whatever reason, whether it's a constituent or it was something that I thought that council might be interested in hearing, I would just give them advice. Well, I can't do anything for you personally, because that puts me in a really tough position. You know, I could be seen as being biased in a particular area, and if you want to bid later, then it may affect your chances of doing so. However, if you wish to go before council, this is the way you do it. You give them the information, then it's up to them whether they do anything with it. You've done, you know, I've done my job. I've not rebuffed anybody. I've told them this is how you get yourself, or possibly get yourself in front of council. I think in the way in which staff will bring us an array of means to consult with a Joe public, conduct community engagement, will be through whatever terms of reference or whatever criteria we put forward when this element comes forward to council. We've made it quite clear as a council, this is an important element, an important factor in all of the processes that we are undertaking at the moment, which will involve public consultation. And we've made it quite clear that we want to see a comprehensive plan. And in order to see a comprehensive plan, staff will have to say, as they have with all of the plans that we're putting together, what do you want in that plan? What kind of engagement are you talking about? And we will give a broad terms of reference of what that will entail. We want to be able to, you know, reach out to the shut-ins, to the people who don't come to meetings, so on and so forth. And we want to see all of the means that can be, through what that can be achieved. That's the process. Then, no doubt, we will hear about the kind of methods that this particular supplier can afford us, and what they can do for us, and how effective it might be in achieving our goals. So I don't see a big problem with getting what we want, or the kind of consultation that we want to see taking place, because we will drive that as council.
Councillor Heaney.
Well, regardless of how the vote comes out, I hope we encourage the company to apply as a delegation, because again, this is technology that I'm not sure we're going to see with regards to our public consultation. So I want to make sure that I get made aware of it, so that I can consider when we are developing our public consultation plan. I just want to make sure we get it. And so if someone can come and speak to us and tell us what they're doing up there, I'd love to hear it.
Councillor Coppola.
Once again, Councillor Neary said it very well. I think the approach would be to direct them to staff, and that keeps everything clean. There's two ways of doing this. One is direct to the staff. They can make a request to be a delegation and do a presentation. That's fine. The other way would be for council to say, look, we're very interested in these new technologies. I'm very interested in this particular technology. I think it sounds like it could be great. There's others out there, but we could ask staff to look into this type of thing and report back. That's the second way of doing it. But I don't think inviting somebody, I think it just, if they ever bid on any work, I think then the individual is in conflict of interest.
Councillor Swing.
Through the chair. So, not speaking in favor of the motion, you know, I will say I am definitely open to hearing expert opinions on technology and engagement tools for our community. I like Councillor Neary's idea of the terms of reference. However, at this stage, I'm definitely not interested in the sales page.
Anything further?
Recorded vote, please.
All those in favor of the motion? Councillor Hain, Councillor Paulson, opposed? Councillor Strain, Councillor Colcutt, Mayor Hain, and Councillor Neary. Motion defeated. Which gets us to item number 10, public participation. Name and address for the record.
John Halliwell,
186.
9 First Terrace. What else I can remember this last little issue? if Joe Public was given a phone number and a name of said individual, and Joe Public contacted said individual and said, if you want to pursue this further, you contact the CAO and show you're interested, and then it can go through staff and everything happens. It's quite simple. It could be Joe Public or hypothetically anybody else. I felt quite lonely when I first came in tonight. Right, I was the only one here.
So do I get an award?
I think so. And I didn't phone Graham to come and give me some help. But I had onions for dinner, and I wondered whether I was repelling people away, but anyway. And then it was the shortest sit-down I've had, about 3 minutes, and then he kicked me out of the municipal chambers. Anyway, joviality aside, transparency, when you talk about your meetings, transparency isn't a dirty word, it's a good thing to have. And if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear. So it won't be a problem if you go that way. The other issue on the 9C, owners of well number 11. I think I know. Who is the owner of well number 11?
National Projects.
National Project, okay. Are any of the other wells privately owned?
Not within the well field.
They're all
They're all
by the
district.
municipality?
Yeah, they're all district.
Do we pay rent or anything to Lansville Project?
We don't use the well.
We don't use the
on
well at
private
all?
land currently. It's a drilled well, but it's on private land, and there was a suggestion many years ago of incorporating into the system, but it's still privately held. So it doesn't
Surprised if no, all these years when we supposedly had a shortage of water, and we know there is another well, is it a good producer of water? Anyone have any idea how many gallons per minute?
Through the chair, there has been reports on the well that it produces approximately 30 gallons a minute. However, there's also reports stating that the well was drilled inaccurately and would not be accepted by the Vancouver Island authorities as a water source.
So theoretically in the same area there could be a lot of water which would be more accessible if we drilled better wells or more efficient wells. I mean, that seems to be an area where we could have maybe looked for water.
Councilor Cooper.
Well, my understanding of it is near our wells. It was drilled quite some time ago, I don't know when. There was a pump test done. There is interference with our wells. But depending on, they have the option there of re-drilling the well properly, so it's technically could be connected to the system. And if they did that, the only way to know how much water they could extract from that well without interfering with our wells is to do the pump test at the same time. So we pump test all our wells, we get them to where we're maximizing and it's sustained. They start pumping that well, they can pump it as much as they want until it starts to interfere with ours, and then they have to back off until it does interfere. That's how much water they get. So the only way to know that is to do it at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I suggest we.
And that's what you do.
Yeah, I'm just saying, give them the option if they want, because if they do ever want to re-drill and suggest or propose that well for their development, then you need to have that information.
Has anyone ever thought of trying to buy it from them, or would they just refuse to sell it to the municipality and solely want it for future development of their own?
I would just say, in all likelihood. But I don't know.
Councilor Coulson.
Sorry, just further to well 11. In 1988, an organization rated that well at 90 imperial gallons per minute. And then in 2007, it was retested and down rated to 25 gallons a minute. The information I had on it suggested that the only reason it hadn't been accepted was because there was no casing around it, it's like a 2-hour job. Some bentonite clay, seal it up. I don't know if they accept it done that way, but at the time, that was the only reason that I wasn't accepted. Passing on.
Thank you. Further participation? Mr. Savage?
Graham Savage, 685 Powell Drive. Just on the last item, council discussed on the communication tool. I think council made the right decision. I personally think or see this as just like any other product. There may be somebody out there who thinks they've got a fire hydrant that's better than has been produced. The avenue would be for that manufacturer to approach staff and persuade staff, and if staff thought there was merit, would come back to council. And I think this is the same thing. If this council had got a strategic plan to improve communication, then this is one of the tools that could help do that. And the approach is to make a presentation to staff, and if staff believes there's some merit to it, then they would come back to council. So I think this is, the issue of governance and management, and those kinds of tools that are available should be forwarded to management for their review, in my opinion.
So I'll just offer a question back. So we do have a communication policy that came out this year. Nowhere in it was there discussion of mechanisms such as this to engage the public differently. So it's a chicken and the egg thing, right? If do you rely on staff to provide the feedback, or does council have to give staff some notification of where we'd like to head so that it might appear in a report?
Well, again, in my opinion, if you as a council feel there's a lot of merit to this and that the likely could be, then maybe the approach would be to suggest to the individual that he contacts staff.
Yeah, see you.
Mr. Howell?
Just on a lighter note, I agree in green technology, and I don't feel at this point that I want to sit behind a monitor all the time when I can have the fun I have and by being in attendance here as a physical human being. But I did detect a bit of a note, and I wrote down the word redundancy. So I'm becoming, like many people who've come here, we're becoming redundant by the Saturday. Anyway, and on a lighter note, Fred, I hope that nobody was sitting in the porta potties when they were pushed off. Thanks.
Any additional public participation? Hearing none, we have a motion to go in the camera. Moved by Councilor, seconded by Councilor Neary. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.